Welcome, folks. Welcome to the second edition of the new series of the 99% Show. We are lucky to have our guest today, all the way from sunny America, USA, Matt Landman, who is an expert on chemtrails. And I would advise that you check his documentary out. I won't call it frankincense, but it's not. It's done as in a way to capture franking skies. So we're going to talk about that. But let me bring Matt on straight away. And welcome, Matt. Welcome to the shores of England. How are you?
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the show, and it's nice to make your acquaintance from all the way over here. I'd like to be able to get out that way and bring some truth and light and activism to that side of the world this summer, so hopefully we can meet in person as well.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, at the end of the day, we're here to help each other, as Wayne Dwyer says, walk each other home. Or was it somebody else said that? But we're here to walk each other home and not to be poisoned by the skies dropping down on us. So, how long have you been an activist against what they're putting in the skies? How long has that been on your mind, and you've been trying to get out there to try and wake people up? How long have you been doing it? And then what brought you into it anyway? What made you want to speak out against what's happening?
Thank you. Great question. I can't believe it's been over a decade now for me as an activist, but it takes a little bit of time to get traction in any walk of life, and it wasn't that easy at the start. Now I have a tool, which is a movie, a documentary, so I can hand that to people, and that does a lot of work. You know, it does the work of a million Matts. Matt Landman, that's my name. It does the work of a million Matt activists, because I can't be everywhere, you know? And so now, once I got that and was able to have that asset and be able to share that, then I was really becoming an activist. But at first, in 2012, when I first started learning about it, I was just shocked no one knew about it. That was what was the biggest reason for me to get involved at first. It became a spiritual journey later down the road, but my path was, I've worn many hats. I've had like 45 different jobs. I grew up in Virginia, in the Washington, D.C. area, and I went to university and got a business degree, and I worked in a lot of different restaurants and all that, but eventually I ended up in Northern California.
Yeah.
And I went to grad school, I went to business school, and I got a film degree while I was going to school. Thank goodness I got that film degree, because I did end up making this documentary with that skill set. But what happened is I got out of school, and I got another business job, and I'd gone and done all this education just to be back in a cubicle, you know? And I got offered this opportunity, this chance. For me, it was very unique because I'd never worked on a farm. So I got this opportunity to work on an organic farm. And on this organic farm, where I was grounded, literally in touch with the elements, with the ground and the air and the sky. And when it rains, I get rained on, you know. When it's sunny, I'm out in the sun. I'm wearing a sun hat. And I was out there for 1 full year. And where I lived in Northern California, it's a very unique microclimate where it rains during the rain season, and then it's warm and sunny during the other half of the year. So come late October, we get rain there for like 4 or 5 months. It's the Pacific Northwest, and it just doesn't stop. And that deluge was coming early this particular year, and I witnessed weather engineering. I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it before. I had no reference point, but I saw a whole bunch of planes show up and grid the sky on the edge of this big storm system. And if people are new to this, they can start to watch. There's a lot more air traffic on the edge of storm systems, bringing them through, making it rain more, rain less, or adding chemicals to the rain, whatever is happening, because a lot of different things happen. Whatever's happening at that time, at the edge of storm systems, you can see so much happening. And what I witnessed was the spraying of aluminum, because we're in the midst of like a 4-year drought.
Can I
Yeah,
just
please.
interrupt there? When you say on the edge of a storm system, what do you actually mean by that?
Well, it was clear, and we had a storm coming in, and it was a 100% chance of rain. But the sky was blue, and here comes this big thunderstorm. So as this big thunderstorm comes, and you see these black clouds coming, these planes showed up, like leading the parade, leading the way of the storm. And whereas the storm would usually come and dump rain on us, we had planes first leaving these persistent, linear, cirrus cloud formations out of the back of the jets. And not just a couple, like a dozen. And I was in a rural farm community where I wouldn't see a plane all day, not one in the sky. And so being a statistics business major, I graduated top of my class with a master's in business administration with a focus in strategic sustainability. And with that little skill set, I was able to see an irregular pattern, which was all these planes showed up, and it was on the edge of the storm system, bringing in this, seemingly leading the way for this storm. And when the storm arrived, it didn't drop any rain. We were supposed to get 1 week of rain, and that black cloud was over top for a week, but it didn't drop any rain. And any breaks in the cloud, you could see these planes zigzagging these white lines. It took me a long time to understand what they were doing. They were laying out aluminum, which is the opposite of cloud seeding. You can spray chemicals in the sky to make the rain come out of the clouds. It's called cloud seeding. What you're doing is you're putting little particulates up there that the water is attracted to, and then the water gets attracted to these seeds, and then it gets heavy and falls out, makes rain. You can do the opposite with aluminum. It dissipates and makes the water spread apart and not fall into the seeds, and you can make it not rain over certain areas and then partition that rain for somewhere else. When you control the weather, you decide where it's going to rain, where it's not going to rain. And at that time, the agenda was to drought out California. For what reason? See, everyone wants to ask why. Anytime truth comes to people and it's new or even not so new, people want to know the who, what, why, where, when, how, all of it. You know why? Because they want to pass the information to their peers, and they know their friends, family, the people they bring it to, their peers, they're going to ask these questions. And if you don't have the answers, they're going to dismiss you. You know? So people will ask, why would they do that? And why is control? You drought out certain farms, and big agriculture, big ag can come in and buy those farms and consolidate. It's a slow and steady agenda, but control is the answer to all the questions. So they were in the midst of controlling the weather for their, bidding, and the they is a trigger word, but the powers that be, And once I learned that something was happening, and I started to have the conversation, it took a friend bringing up the word to me and saying, "Oh, you should look up the word chemtrails," and then it all started to make sense. I had that memory, that recent memory, it all fell in line. But once I learned that nobody knew it was happening, like I brought the information and made some flyers and started talking about it in my community, nobody knew of it. And anybody who had heard the word, they would dismiss it as a, nutter conspiracy theory, like it was something crazy because of the media and the way that it had been framed, and they had never heard of it. And so I then started to give it some real attention, and slowly but surely realized I should make this documentary and have conferences and have different websites and all this, and now it's my life. And I've even segued the activism and coupled it with EMF activism to bring awareness to 5G and EMF awareness and protection. And I've turned the activist, I'm an activist, but before I was just bleeding money and trying to figure it out, but now I've actually created an awareness company with EMF gear and turned the activism into, my not just passion, but also my career.
When you say EMF, what did you mean by that?
Oh, right. So EMF is electromagnetic field. It's an abbreviation. and it stands for the radiation that comes off of wireless devices. So anything that communicates wirelessly, even if it's just your alarm clock that tells you the weather, if it's not plugged in, it's getting that information wirelessly from the cell tower or the Wi-Fi router, what have you. And if you have a meter, an EMF meter, you can see the levels of the radiation coming off, but it's pretty new to people because the education and awareness is not there as much, just like the chemtrails. And so it's important for people to grasp that the Wi-Fi or the cell phone tower and all these gadgets, they emit this, it's basically light, but it's light that data is being carried on. And in that, because it's light, our bodies absorb it thinking that it's light from the sun. And so we absorb this, which is called radiation as well. You can call light from the sun radiation too. We absorb it, and it over time causes it impacts our health, and it's something to learn about, know about, mitigate. And in that regard, knowledge is power. I like to say knowledge plus action is power, because knowing something is great, but you need to apply that knowledge to make it into wisdom, you know?
So, Bill Gates, this is just question top of my head now. He's buying up land. He's buying up lots of land. I mean, I don't know where the question coming from. Just popped into my head. And he's buying up land. Has this land been subject to a drought? Do you know anything about that?
Right. Yes. The land that he buys up is not just subject to drought, but you've got these tornadoes that come through and rip apart middle America. So in the United States, we've got the breadbasket in the middle of the country where all the wheat and all that stuff is grown. And these storms will clash, and you'll have tornadoes. And the tornadoes will rip apart towns. And then these towns can be, this farmland can be bought up for pennies on the dollar. Also, yes, drought. And also, now more than ever, we've got flooding. And the flooding, I've realized, is, I don't mean to smile. It's okay. You have to take light with these things, okay? For one, and I'm just going to digress for just a moment, all of this information is truth. And truth is not in the vibration of fear. Truth is in the vibration of love and light, and it's a high frequency, truth is. We have to understand that. Coming to awareness of truth, you can go through the process of grievance and be upset and come through it. But at the end of the day, once you process it and fully grasp what is happening, all of these little things, whether it be the chemtrails or fluoride or GMO foods, you name it, it's all a spiritual war, because there's powers that be that do not want you stepping into your full sovereignty, your full awareness, your full power. And honoring that and knowing that all these attacks that are happening every which way, don't ever let them put you in a place of fear or dismantle you, because you should be empowered to fully understand that they fear you. Okay?
So this is
every
why,
one of you.
This is why one of the pictures I've got on here is the darkness fears us waking up. People like yourself, people like John O'Looney, we had on last week, the funeral director from Milton Keynes, who noticed that the coagulation in the blood when he was mummifying bodies, the blood wouldn't flow out, just these long worms are coming out, the blood had all, and he was brought to task, and the National Health here targeted him. He had a phone call, and he said, "You will be targeted. They're trying to get rid of you." And 2 weeks later, he was ill, and he had to go into the hospital. They put him into a COVID ward. He hadn't got COVID, and the consultant came to him and talked to him about giving him this drug, which we all know killed people off. But he was wise, and he said no. He got a barrister, a solicitor, someone, and they helped him get out of the hospital. And it's people like that and yourself are coming forward now and saying, this is what's happening. And I thank you for coming on, because my experience to talking to people about chemtrails, they absolutely know nothing, unless they're what you may call an activist, a conspiracy theorist or somebody like me who's in tune with my people upstairs. Like, I was out walking today because I walk in nature for 2 hours every day to get inspiration and do my affirmations, and I met a friend and she said, "What are you doing tonight?" So I told her I'm on the show. I said, "What's it about? Chemtrails. What are them when they're at home?" The white lines in the sky. "Oh, I just thought that were aeroplane passing." I said, "You're being poisoned." "Oh, I didn't know that." And it's like, God bless her cotton socks, she's a nice person. But I find a lot of people are so blinkered because it's not affecting them. And forgive me for saying what your job is. I'm hoping your job is to wake people up as much as you can, because I know that's my job. And sometimes I get disheartened because you're not knocking on people's doors, but you're knocking on people's consciousness, and they close the door on you. They don't want to know. Karma is still operating now. So I try to live the best life I can by not upsetting anybody, unless I have to do. And I'm a Scorpio, so I do have a sting. And because I know it's going to come back. Now, these people, this secret society that are poisoning us, what's the reason behind it?
Well, that's a great question. I'm also a Scorpio. I'm right on the Libra-Scorpio cusp. I'm like 30 minutes into Scorpio, and I definitely have those Scorpio tendencies. And I love the British jargon. God bless her cotton socks. I've never heard that one before. I'll have to try to mix that. I'll mix that into my repertoire. I love you all over there. It's really fun and funny, and I like to say the fun bullocks words. And so, why are they doing it? We could talk about that for hours. I'll tell you why. The powers that be know that we're on an evolutionary timeline of sorts, where the stars are slowly aligning with our download codes, and we are on a spiritual ascension program here. That's like what Earth is supposed to do, where we slowly but surely live out our karma, and we come to the realization that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, because that's a big epiphany for a lot of people to have. And then in that regard, we're not afraid of death, and all this fear gets dismantled, and we can honor our destiny as physical beings that are vibrating in this lower density space to experience physicality, but we come from a space that's not physical. We're non-physical spiritual beings having a physical experience. And all of this, including fluoride and other things, inoculations and all these sort of things, these and the chemtrails, they're buying themselves time. Okay, don't let me say the word "they" and trigger people, because you can ask me who the "they" is later if you want. We can talk about that for 20 freaking minutes if you want. But it's a full-on spiritual battle. There's bloodlines and all this sort of stuff, and they know that humanity is on an ascension timeline, and they want to buy themselves time to keep dumbing us down, like spiritually, essentially. And then when there's some really amazing download codes, they'll block them with the aluminum and whatnot. And they don't want us to step into our spiritual destiny, because they think that they can pause our evolution and introduce a transhumanism, non-human kind of hijacking of our timeline to quell this spiritual ascension or the raising of frequency. The vibration on Earth is meant to rise. And the powers that be want to quell this rising frequency so that they can maintain their grip, maintain power, which is in a lower frequency vibration. The greed and lust and all these sort of things, these are lower chakra systems that we're supposed to elevate out of and learn how to grow out of. And the powers that be want to keep us in a low frequency and then trick us into adopting a transhuman reality. Which, what does transhuman mean? It means where humanity is duped into thinking they need to adopt an AI part robot reality where people are getting upgrades and transferring consciousness into digitization forms and trying to live forever out of fear of death, out of fear that they cannot reproduce, and maybe there will be issues with the ability to procreate because of 5G and chemtrails and all that. And I think that's part of the Agenda 2050 to scare people when birth rates are so low that people are convinced they have to transfer their consciousness into robots and all this sort of stuff. But it's a long story. They do what they do to get control because they are so afraid of our heart. They don't want one human having a full heart opening, because when that happens, the spiritual tendencies on earth, like, people will not be able to be controlled when we step into our spiritual identities, which is connecting to our higher selves. And when we can really connect to our higher selves, we see that we have a astral body along with our physical body. We connect the two, and that astral body is connected to the Akashic, where all knowledge exists. When we come and we're born on earth, we get our memories wiped.
Yep.
That makes us think that this is like our first existence, our first incarnation, that there's nothing before.
Yep.
There's plenty before. And if we can learn what was before, and that there's existence after death and before death, that's the knowledge, the occult hidden knowledge that they grasp, and they keep that knowledge from us and want us in the dark, want us controlled and controllable. And the chemtrails are exactly that. It's a control mechanism to keep us in the dark, to keep us from aligning with our light.
I have a question about the chemtrail, but years ago when I first stepped into my power, I suppose we're not really aligned, all of us yet, with our true power, because if we were, we probably wouldn't be here. We'd probably be back over there and then waited to come back to actually step into our full power. So it's like saying, when somebody says, "Oh, I have an ascended master," or somebody like Saint Germain or Jesus Christ talking to me all the time or manifesting, I'm saying, you've not. You may have an aspect of it, because even that aspect, it was so powerful, it would blow your brain. You wouldn't be able to hold that vibration, So it's like saying, in a way, when I first came into it, it was like, oh, what's going on here? And my car filled up with white light one night when I'm driving home. And this voice said to me, in amongst the white light, couldn't see the steering wheel. He said, "Don't worry, Dennis, we won't let anything happen to you." Because I was having thought patterns about something. I'm not going to share them on here now, but people know anyway. And it says, right, don't worry, everything will be okay. So, what happened then, I was shown that when you come from what we call upstairs, heaven, the afterlife, where we're from, spirit, the spirit realms, the ascension realms, that we come down on a vibration. It's like we lower our vibration. We come down, down, down and down until we come to a halfway point. And that halfway point is pass not. And I always thought, why is it called pass not? Well, if you pass this not, if you pass this vibration, pass not, it means don't go past. Because if you do go past, you're coming onto earth, and your memory of your spiritual existence is taken off you on purpose. I say, well, why is taking it off on purpose? Because you've got a job to do, you've got a mission to do, you've got karma to fulfill, either, I won't say good or bad, but you've got different experiences of karma, and we, the human race, call things negative and positive. I just say you've got an experience. So if you chose an easy life and you knew what your karma is, you'd be blasé about it. You wouldn't do what you had to do. But on the other hand, if you chose a hard life and you think, oh, this is going to be too hard now, really too hard, I don't want to be down there, you might commit suicide and go back home. And that's why my people said to me upstairs, this is why the vibration, to make it easy in layman terms, so nobody can misunderstand it, is taken off you on purpose. So you don't remember your past experience to a point unless you come into what you call on this earth God realization, self realization. We all know God's not that white bearded chap on a cloud. It is energy, it is source. And we probably won't know until we really go over what it is all about, because we're only using 10% of our brain, our memory. And I try to say this to people. We are a spiritual being having an experience as a human being. Don't get sucked into it. Because life goes, your hair goes, your teeth drop out, you put weight on. Welcome it. Because, when that happens, you've got a limited time on the planet. So why get your panties in a twist? It's like, come on, wake up, smell the roses. Humbug to it all. Bollocks. Shakespeare is an ascended masters, and he said, you come on to a stage and you play a role, and when that role is over, it might be an extra, it might be a minion, it might be nothing, a sweep of the stage, but you play that life real well and you come back with a greater plan, a greater actor. Why be an extra in somebody else's play when you can be the star in your own play? Write your own movie like you've done. You're a star in your own play. So, spiritually, folks, I feel that Matt knows his stuff. We are spiritual people, entities. We've dumbed down our experience, our vibration. We've dumbed it down on purpose to have this vibration. And if you're here and you're a certain age, you are the first realm or the first batch of light workers. You're the first batch. I know I'm probably one of the first or second batches, because I've been working 40 years and I started when I was 30. So that tells you how old I am. But it's not finished yet. So to have these people dropping pieces of poison on us, we are ingesting aluminum, as you call it. We call it aluminium. Or is that the same thing? Is aluminum the same as aluminium?
Aluminum is aluminium, yes. We both say it a little different.
Yeah. You say tomatoes, we say tomatoes. Okay, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's no problem. So this leads me on to the next question. My rant over now. What are they dropping on us? What's it designed to do? What's it made of? And will it connect to the 5G towers? And will it fry the inside of us?
Great question. And just to connect to the point that you were saying before, I believe that Earth is a school of life. It's a school.
Yeah.
And part of the school is to live out karma. And there's no way to live out karma if you come here with all of your memories and you know why you're in the school of life. You wouldn't be able to fulfill this karmic life if you remembered everything. So that's one reason why the memories are swiped. I'm not sure that everyone is necessarily here to fulfill their karma. I feel like some spiritual beings come to serve. And yes, there's first wave, second wave, third wave. Like I've learned about that through Dolores Cannon and her work. And I firmly believe that some light beings are here to help. And this is a dense vibration for some of us to come to. And yes, we dumb it down to come to help, shine the light and lead the way and be the bringers of the dawn and that torch bearer. So what is being sprayed? There's a lot of things going on there. Well, activists and people scratching their head had to take science into their own hands. They see a day of a lot of spraying going on. We can talk about that, Jill. It's mineralization is the key, because once you're mineralized, you're not absorbing the chemtrails, and then you can step into your power and not be a victim. But we can talk about how to mineralize properly. What they spray is coming up in the rainwater. So what happens is you'll see a wild spray day where it's very abnormal, nothing like you've seen for a month or something, and then you test the water the next day when it comes down in the rain, you send it off to the lab, and it's showing the same that the patents show for these weather engineering, abilities. So it starts to line up, and over time with lots of tests and lining up with the patents, and it's showing up in the budgets for NASA. For instance, they have a budget of $66.6 million per day, and they have a chemtrail program called CARE, C-A-R-E, stands for Charged Aerosol Release Experiments. And you find the chemical constituents that they're spraying in the sky, in their documents, on their websites, publicly, and they say that they spray aluminum, barium, and strontium to make noctilucent clouds. They name the clouds that they form. And so you start to do the research, and then those chemicals are showing up in the rainwater, in the patents. It goes from a corollary, hypothesis, to a causal actual, you come down to narrowing it down to finding out what it is. And it is aluminum, barium, and strontium. The short trails that people say, oh, that's a contrail, that's a con. There's no hot air coming out of these planes. Okay, this is a misnomer. The jet engines in the Air Force and in the military, they have jet engines on the back of the planes, pushing that plane. Okay, that's hot air. It's a lot of combustion going on, and that's jet fuel. Now, the jet engines, the planes, the airplanes that fly around with your passenger jets, you've got Ryanair and all that over there, these are high bypass turbofan jet engines. What they are, they're on the wing. And they may as well just be propellers, okay? These are fancy propellers. The propellers spin, they create lift, create wind, and lift over that wing. It's basically creating a vortex that the plane is being pulled into the vortex. But there's lift being created to blow over that wing to make the plane go. There's no hot air. So with the engines, it's just internalized, and you've got no crazy combustion, no hot air coming out. My dad was actually a pilot, and we would fly through flocks of birds, and they're not being cooked or anything. It's just hot air. It's just cool air because it's spinning the turbine and pushing the air that's up over there over the wing. There's no heat. There's no hot air at all. So the whole story that there's hot air, and then there's a short trail, and there's hot air, and then there's a long trail because of ice condensation, they say. They say that there's hot air. And the thing is, with everything, sorry to go on a tangent, but I have to. Everyone has been programmed it started with Edward Bernays, who said, trust the specialist, meaning you're not a specialist. Edward Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he really got into marketing, and he got bacon as the American breakfast staple. He made tobacco and cigarettes sexy, convinced everyone to have fluoride, got the doctors wearing white coats and said, trust the specialist, and put them in white. And at the end of the day, okay, especially with your health, you don't have to rely on the specialists to tell you anything, okay? All these truths are very simple. They just like to muddy the waters and make them not seem easy to understand. For instance, GMO stands for genetically modified organism. Oh, well, that's really easy to pass the buck to someone else and be like, I'm just going to trust the specialist because I don't know about genetic modification. I'm not a scientist. The reason why these plants are modified genetically and their genes are twisted is so that they can be sprayed with poison. That's it. It's very simple. So glyphosate, it's called Roundup. If that poison was sprayed on your crops, the crops would just wither and die, and then you couldn't even buy them at the grocery store. So they are tweaked genetically so that they can be sprayed with this herbicide or insecticide poison that would otherwise kill the plant. You don't want that poison on your food. It's not as confusing or convoluted as it seems. They just like to muddy the water, make it seem confusing. So just like the contrail, it's a con. They want it to be all confusing. Like, oh, well, there's hot air and there's barometric pressure and depends on the atmosphere and all this stuff. There's no hot air. It's just wind being blown over the turbines.
Question. GMN foods, right? You're saying, or I think you're saying, forgive me if I got it wrong, that people or the scientists or the specialists, trusted specialists, are bringing forward a type of GMO food, right? So that GM food can easily be poisoned. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they tweak the plant genes so that it can be heavily poisoned, and then we eat the poison.
So basically, heavenly poisons mean the crops are ruined. That's if it goes further or farther than it's supposed to do. Further is the right way. Father, the universe, and Divine Mother. Secondly, wow, I didn't know this. This is good. They are creating genetically modified foods so they can poison them quicker. So we eat them and we get poisoned quicker and leave the planet. Or
And
when we leave the planet, do they harvest us? That's another question. When we leave the planet, when we've ate their poison, do they harvest us to come back to start all over again? If you don't want to answer that, that's fine. That just popped in. I don't know where that comes from, but it's an interesting question.
well, to maintain the lower vibration on Earth, we are harvested in a way to make us come back through the creation of karma. So the occult knowledge, the powers that be, they know so much more about karma than we do. So war, for instance, is created to have a karmic loop so that these souls that have done horrible things, like killing, have to come back, and then this vibrational loop is kept lower. Like it keeps the vibration low by creating karma on Earth. And all of these souls that could come in that are high vibration, their host bodies are being filled by these karmic people who have to keep coming back to serve multiple lives. I don't think that we're supposed to come to Earth and live out as many lives as these people are, but the powers that be through media, they make it glorified to kill, and all these other things where karma is instead of being shed, it's being piled on. So I didn't really answer the question maybe the way that you thought, but there is a harvesting going on. And also, the transhumanism thing, what they want to be able to do is lock in people so that they cannot serve their karma, so that they cannot come back. And so really their physical bodies are being, in a sense, harvested so that they can be like illuminized. And well, I want to go back to your first question about your last question about the metal, because that is part of this question as well. They spray aluminum, barium, and strontium. These are primary constituents in the chemtrails. They also spray other things to experiment. In my movie, they, for instance, pick a city in the United States, and they spray, even on the ground levels, they sprayed radioactive zinc cadmium sulfide to see how many people would get sick and die from it. The U.S. Air Force did it to their own people. So 5G, it needs antennas everywhere. Okay, so 5G wants to have antennas. I believe that's you got it. Okay. So the
somebody
5G,
watching the show saying, fantastic. They're not putting it on the show, they're watching it and they WhatsApp me saying, fantastic.
I love that. So there's different metals being sprayed, and one of them, for instance, is aluminum oxide, another is barium salts. These are patented fire accelerants. These fire accelerants are being sprayed on our trees to propagate this agenda where there's forest fires, and they scratch their heads and say, what are we going to do? Well, we need to introduce geoengineering and dim your skies and control the weather. They're creating this problem to make a problem reaction solution. So fire accelerants are being sprayed on the trees to make forest fires and to make a problem. So they can introduce this green initiative to do climate change lockdowns in 15-minute cities and all that sort of stuff that we need to protest.
That's a question someone just asked me now. Get him to talk about climate control. But when you're ready, just,
We will talk. We'll get into that for sure, because that is part of the enslavement of humanity, and they want us compressed into these 15-minute cities so that we can have all these different things like climate lockdowns, and eventually the Agenda 2050. So the Agenda 2050 is to have everyone so afraid, and they've had these different climate change lockdowns and these things getting them primed for this, but so afraid that they stay home, and an avatar goes out in the world, like like a robot goes out in the world and they guide it with goggles, virtual reality goggles, and they stay home all the time and don't leave their homes. And then there's even smart meters monitoring them, and maybe they're even not allowed to leave their home because they're not green, you know? And green is watermelon. It's green on the outside, but red on the inside, like socialist red. Like green is all an agenda. But back to the 5G and the control of humanity, we are getting metals embedded inside of us, making us more conductive to receive frequencies, control frequencies. And the 5G, in a perfect 5G environment, we end up carrying around these 5G phones, but also we are in antennas with all of these metals in our bodies. And it's very dystopian and weird, but as people continue to adopt a transhuman reality where they're getting, you know, upgrades and living into this Elon Musk dystopian timeline where they're getting Neuralink chips in their brain and all this, there's going to be a push to go to Mars. And I don't think anybody's really going to Mars. I think they're getting chips in their brain and getting memories of Mars, and they'll need these upgrades, and different transhumanism pushes towards that will happen in our future. And it's all to dismantle humanity because we're really on a spiritual journey. And if we can grasp that, then we step into our sovereignty. But the powers, they want us to not. So I'll pass it to you because I don't want to go on too many tangents. I'll just keep on going.
You mentioned one thing there. Step into our sovereignty. How the hell do you do that?
Well, that's a great question. For one, the occult, which is hidden knowledge, it doesn't. So here's this is an amazing thing that I've just realized, Dennis, and I've had. Over just the past few months, I've had some sort of like upgrade or something where I'm seriously stepping into some deeper knowledge because I'm having these really deep understandings and epiphanies. It might be because I'm sleeping with beeswax candlelight. I feel like there's something deeper there that's helping me come to some deeper understandings. So we have an astral body, everyone. We have an astral body, which is kind of like our spiritual body, but it's deeper because we have a higher self above that. But let's just focus on this. There's an astral realm, and we have an astral body. Now, if we are dreaming, our physical body is resting, and we can really tap into that sometimes. And people have lucid dreaming, and some people can even accidentally snap into the astral realm. And in that astral realm, it's very confusing because we are not learned about it. We don't get educated about it. Our school system is completely dismantling. We get traumatized trying to teach us calculus, which we don't even need, and our subconscious mind gets all bogged down. We don't learn what the real occult knowledge is, which is we have an astral body, and that astral body is connected to all that is. And once we start to fully step into it, that's where the power and sovereignty lies. So I've been studying Rudolf Steiner and reading a bunch of his stuff and doing a lot of deep work in working on understanding, grasping the astral. And what we can do is start to tap into our dream space, start to learn about, I believe that we are divine processors of input. We are divine processors of input, and we have this chakra system that processes what we're given in this light form, and we process things and project them through our third eye. I believe consciousness in this holographic reality is a consensus reality that we're basically creator gods, that we all come together, take in the inputs and project them through our third eye and kind of create reality together. And I know that's kind of confusing and deep, but in the astral it makes sense. So when we're dreaming, our third eye can project reality basically in this localized environment and interact with the astral to process our day and have this like dream space where we see in what seems like reality in our dream space, we process our day. And that's when basically our astral body is overlaid on top of our physical body and we're just dreaming. But when you can start to grasp that there's ways, like I've started to learn that there's this like backflip that my astral, so I've got an astral body and it's got a heart and it's got let's just focus on the heart. It has a heart. And that astral body with its heart is overlaid on my physical body that also has a heart. But when I'm in the sleep space, I can focus on this astral body and jump out of my physical body, maybe by like doing this corkscrew backflip that I think I might have learned in a past life or something that I'm coming into realization of. And the goal of this school of life that we have here is experiential existence on earth to fulfill karma and to connect with our soul family and all this sort of stuff, our tribe. But also, it's to grasp the astral connection, our astral world, our astral life, our astral body. And so it's this bottom-up realization. So this is a denser vibration. The astral is in a lighter, higher dimensional vibration. And there is the ego in between. The ego is trying to keep you in this denser vibration and keep you stuck down here. And if we can connect to this higher vibration, to connect the astral, to merge the astral to the physical, then we can basically step into our sovereignty and open our third eye and connect to the Akashic. And we're unfoolable there. We're not able to be fooled. There's no trickery. We can see right through things and then raise the vibration on earth. So together, as a collective. And then maybe we raise the vibration so much that chemtrails don't even exist here for our children. They can't operate on that vibration, on that plane of consciousness. And that's why the powers that be want to keep this level of consciousness, this vibration, earth, dense. So what they are doing in transhumanism, which is wild, is introducing, just like how we have this ascension program where we're supposed to learn this bottom up, okay? So from the astral, it's top down, okay? So you have an astral body, and then it's top down, kind of like a puppeteer. All right? Now, transhumanism is the biggest ego boost because you're giving the ego the power of the astral body. And then it's creating this top-down environment again. So the astral, it's top-down where the astral controls the physical body. Now, the physical body would be controlling a digital, mechanical version of self. And then the physical body and the ego would be the one in charge, and it completely dismantles the connection to the higher. So it's doing this top-down, kind of like how spiritual it is. It's just how the Satan can only pervert and invert things. Satan cannot create. Okay, so everything's a perversion and inversion and flipped upside down. It's just like that, where the powers that be who interact with witchcraft and they interact with lower dimensional beings and work with, it seems to be Satan, whatever. I mean, it's all this, who is the they? It's deep. But they want to trap us into this, complete and total dismantling of the down up, which is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be going up, and instead go down, and have this adoption of, completely abandoning love and light and taking on this fear where we have to come into this mechanical version of self and not honor our spiritual ascension, which is assimilating with our higher forms of consciousness, because we're layered, we're like an onion. Our physical existence is guided by our astral, which is guided by our higher self, which is all light coming from a central source, which we're like light codes from a central source. We're like a sliver of light from a sun that is all that is God, And we're supposed to be connecting to that and shedding these layers. But instead, they want us to flip it and think that we're connecting to something, but we're not. We're just going deeper into a lower vibration. We're not supposed to be going lower. So, in a long, verbose answer, sovereignty is stepping into our light. And then in that, we literally have clairvoyance. We have all of these. Yes, please go.
Because it's fascinating. Because we're all on the same path. We're all on different stages. Now, you're talking about things that other people are going oh, bloody hell, didn't know that. Here, bless my cotton socks. This American guy's all right. How do you tune in? How do you tune in through all this crap that's happening? You know, what spiritual process do you have so it keeps you centered and aligned with your higher self? I know what I have. Whether it's working or not, I don't know. But I'd like to know what you have. And so would the other people. And to the people who are listening, who are in the chat room and listening, if you've got any questions for Matt, please type them up and I'll put them on the screen. Okay, Matt, what's your spiritual practice? How do you see the human race? What would you say if you were an avatar and saying, right, this is the way that you find is helpful for you to negotiate all this crap what we're going through?
So we have a gut, heart, brain connection. And as physical beings, we're actually in the image of God, or we're divine. Like, we are very powerful physical beings. And we have this gut biome, you know, all these little boogers in our gut that do all these amazing things. That stretches up to our throat and into our brain. There's a full biome connection all the way up of electricity and organisms and living things. And my journey, my path, I believe every single person's path is just this kind of predestined. Like, we sit down and work it out before we even incarnate to make sure we align with the right things and do the right,
so
have the right
sorted out
lessons.
before we come. Yeah.
And when I was a teenager, like when I was 13, my dad ended up leaving, and I was trying to figure out how to make money. My mom's crying about money. And I got the newspaper, you know, it was the mid-90s then, the internet wasn't even out, but I got the newspaper and there was stock market. And I started to dabble in the stock market, and I did that for like 30 straight years, stock market, you know, and I've hung up the towel on that, but what I did is I learned my gut. Everybody does it differently, you know. You can ask your gut questions as you walk down the street, you know, should I do this or that? I like to do it first thing in the morning. I interact with my gut, and it's transformed my entire life, and it's moved on to a lot of stuff. But talking to your gut, in my opinion, is the first step to seeing that you're super sensitive, super sensual, like you have senses beyond this realm. So you speak to your gut and continue to do it. Ask it yes/no questions and do it all the time. And you'll start to see that you know everything. Your gut knows everything. It's connected to the Akashic. It's connected to all that is. So ask yourself, you know, should I take that job? Often you'll get no answer. But when you get a no, when you get a no, it's a twist in your stomach. And when you get a yes, it's a connection to angelic energy and source. And when you sometimes, if you start to cultivate and trust this, you'll start to get this firm yes that's like this energetic, like literal alignment of energy. And sometimes it's even so strong that it's like God. And if you follow it, you'll see that the yes was pointing you in the right direction, but your ego will step in, and sometimes you won't follow it at first, and you will be shown the lesson. And you'll get to choose if you want to do that again, because the way that karma and the universe works is the lesson will circle back to you again, and you'll get another chance. And then you'll see, wow, this whole universe works out for me and all that, you know? It's amazing.
So sometimes I ask daft questions, like, shall I go for a bike ride? No answer. Shall I go walking? No answer. And I start laughing and thinking, I'm not bothered either way, but I'm thinking, why ask Mickey Mouse questions, right? Mickey Mouse, you don't ask daft questions, you get daft answers. And it's like saying, I mean, every day I sit in meditation and I say at the end, Dear Father, Divine Mother, whatever, it's my way of saying it, I'm thy instrument, show me the way, how I can be assistant to my brothers and sisters, right? And you don't get a voice saying, voice of God, voice of thunder, do this, do that, do that. You don't get that. But during the day, you know exactly what to do, because you come against a set of circumstances where you just know the human inside you, the spiritual human, steps out and does something or says something to somebody, and it's like saying, but when I don't, it's like saying, shall I go to spiritual church? I'm thinking, well, okay, fine. I won't get a message or spiritual mediums anymore. They can't reach. Well, I shouldn't really say this, but they're on the astral plane. I'm a different place than that. And I'm thinking, no, so what do I want to go for? And I ask a question, but the thought comes in back in like a paragraph. Well, why do you want to go? And it's not a voice that you recognise it's somebody else. It's your own thought pattern, basically. So my way of thinking, okay, show me, this is what I say, show me in a way that I can understand that you are communicating with me in a way that I can understand. Send a person or an attitude or a circumstance that I know this wouldn't have happened normally. This our conversation now is not happening normally. This has been designed months ago for you to come on the show. Okay, we only connected about a fortnight ago. That's through Colin, my friend who helps me to get people on. But it's meant to be. So, and then you ask a question. And then the ego gets in the way and it either flatters you or it doesn't flatter you. And I'm thinking, that's the ego. So I tell it to go and bog off. I take a baseball bat and I knock it out of the court. And what I understand through my, in a way, I'm lucky to understand I've got a mother in a past life who's like a mother now to me in this life. She's alive in this life, and we were mother and son somewhere down the line. And she is unbelievable spiritual. The stuff that she's helped me with, vice versa. Now, she says to me in one way, and I can totally understand, and I totally agree, the ego is here for you to understand it and conquer it.
And witness.
The ego can only deal with the past and the now moment. It can't deal with the future because the future doesn't exist, right? Just this second reinventing itself. So when people say, oh, I trust people say there's no future. Of course there is. I don't argue. I let them get on with it. But the ego only exists in what's gone, and it doesn't exist when you're happy, can't get through to you, when you're smiling, and when you're singing. Except when you're miserable old fart, it gets to you. And she said, don't be a miserable old fart anymore. And the way she says it, this humour. You know, people say, oh, you can't be too spiritual and talk about sex. What? Where do you think we come from? You know, what's the greatest pleasure in life? Making love to your partner. I'll leave it there. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a bit of a cheeky bugger. But in the end, the ego has a merry dance with us. Now, years ago, I had a show on Blog Talk Radio when I channeled the Council of 12. Still channel them. They still give readings out, consultations to people, and they're awesome. And this guy came on, and I think he's in the audience now, Stan. And basically, it was either him or somebody else, and they said, the ego is here for you to understand. It's part of the soul. It's a pseudo soul. It thinks it's in charge until you know it's not in charge. We're not going to make it complicated. You know, we're not going to make it complicated at all. It's that knowing then the ego and knowing how to defeat it is not done overnight. It is a constant, I won't say battle, that's the wrong word. It's a constant work ethic. You have to work at it all the time. And your gut, as you've said rightly, is the first stage. How does it feel? I always say to women, how does the gut feel? A woman always trusts her gut. Intuition is hard to understand. No, it's not easy to understand until you understand it. And then you think, why the hell, Bobby Cox, did I not choose this or understand this before? Because you're not at that level. And once you're at that level, you'll have an understanding. Years ago, I'm going off topic here, I was sat in a spiritual church, I was having a bad day. I'd been used and I didn't like being used, and I was in this church and I'm thinking about this, what I've been used, I'm thinking not having that ego in the way. And there's a medium on the stage on the rostrum and he was talking about the Christ vibration. And I'm thinking, I like this guy, he's alright. But at the bottom, he was on the rostrum, so he was raised up, got a stage. And on the floor, in front of the stage, materialised a Native American Indian out of thin air. I'll say it again, folks. This Native American Indian materialised out of thin air. I call him One Feather because he was such a handsome dude, bit like myself, but without the feather. That's a sense of humour, English humour. Ego, that's the ego creeping in, but I don't care. And I went, what the hell's that? Well, a bit stronger than that. What the hippie next that? And I just looked, and he had a chiseled face. His breast, he was totally ripped, and he had a wooden breastplate on. His muscles were standing out. He looked like a beautiful Arnold Schwarzenegger, but better looking. And I call him One Feather. And I nudged the girl at one side of me and said, can you see that? What you mean? That figure in front of the stage. And she went, what have you been drinking? So I said to this one, can you see that? And she said, what have you been drinking, nigger? And I looked at the figure and telepathically it said to me, Dennis, only you can see me. And I went, why? He said, because you're on this wavelength, they are not. It's not their time yet. So the reason why I'm bringing it up, if people can't understand where you're coming from, which I hope they do, they've not reached that wavelength yet. And somebody said a while ago, and I did post it, you're light years ahead of people. A lot of people won't be able to take it, but I say to them, play it again. Watch the whole thing again, because out of this there's nuggets of truth that sometimes you just got to bite a little bit off. Because years ago, it's like said to me, if you're in a spiritual desert and you've been deprived of spiritual knowledge and you've been in a materialistic desert for many years, and then all of a sudden you come out of the desert, but you're hungry and you're thirsty for spiritual knowledge. You don't overfeed somebody. You don't give them a 3-course meal, a gallon of wine, the dessert. You don't do that. You give them, excuse the pun, a piece of angel cake, the easy digested, and a sip of holy water. That's what you do. A small sliver of food, liquid, so they can digest it. Once they've digested it, they might come back and they might not. But if people overfeed people, they're not going to come back. And this is the way that I've been shown, is those who are ready will come, and those who are watching this program now, hopefully, will understand your words in a way that it will reflect in their gut and give them an understanding of what is, in your opinion, which I'm with you, is happening. In their opinion, it might be not, because one has got to reach that faculty of understanding the broader picture. I just thought I'd bring that in. So
I love what you said about...
The question is,
Go ahead.
what is your discipline? How do you see through all this crap?
Exactly. Cultivating intuition is like a muscle. And one thing about the ego to mention is the ego does not die. If we've had past lives, our ego has been there, and it transcends time. So the ego is very old, very wise, and it knows how to manipulate you. And witnessing it and hearing it and saying, that was not me, that was something else. That's one of the first things in cultivating your intuition and trusting your gut and knowing that your gut is connected to your higher being. Earlier I mentioned the stock market. I wanted to mention what I was saying is through my engagement in the stock market, what I would do every morning, I would wake up and ask my gut how it went before turning on the computer or even looking. And I would feel a sinking feeling when I did really poorly, and that was a great opportunity, losing and making money, which is evil, but I did cultivate this gut instinct through that, and now I ask it all sorts of things, different people in my life or whatever, and it does ring true. So cultivating this instinct, it's like street smarts. You see someone on the street corner who's screaming mad and waving a knife in the air, your gut sinks, you cross the street. Okay, you're honoring something, an instinct. This instinct is connected to all that is, and you can cultivate this gut, and it really, it starts with the gut, but it turns into the heart. Okay, the gut connects to the heart connects to your astral body connects to your higher self, and through the heart, you can connect to all that is, and really, anyone listening to this, you can be that spark that awakens humanity through your heart, because the heart is sleeping, and really it's supposed to be breathing. I don't think we're supposed to have lungs. I think we breathe through our heart. I think our astral body has no lungs and a heart, and one breath through the heart opens up the other hearts around us, opens up all the hearts of humanity, connects us to our astral, and raises the frequency and vibration of all that is, and no evil can even exist. Also, I think duality and good and evil is part of the school of life. So it's not as daunting and horrible as it seems. It gives us this ability to refine ourselves, to bump up against things. Like, imagine raising a child and it's never told no, it never has given a boundary. It doesn't know that there's up and down, left and right, good and evil. It only knows one thing, and then it becomes a crazy adult, with no boundaries. You have to have these things in life for us to be able to work our way through and be able to be given choice, free will. We live in a free will zone, and that's the biggest thing about this hijacking, and that's why these light bringers and these waves are coming in, because there's a bamboozling, trickery, hijacking happening where free will is being dismantled. You can't trick humanity and give them 2 rotten apples and say, pick one. It's not fair, right?
We're not Snow White. Yeah, we're not Snow White. Yeah.
Exactly. And that seems to be what's happening through this attempt to dismantle consciousness and get us locked into a transhuman reality. It's like we're being given choice, but in an altered way, and that's not free will. And that's not what this free will zone is supposed to be honoring. And that's why we're here, is because the school of life is being altered and hijacked and dismantled, and we're here to raise the vibration so that we can get this back in gear, which is a process. Earth is a process.
Years ago, it was like, trust your gut. Trust your gut. You'd get an experience. I've been in many businesses and lost their fortunes, and even and they've really floored me. Especially when you're in love and that girl floors you and goes off with somebody else. I mean, your gut, like, oh my God. And that's what brought me into spirituality. Some girls took me to see this medium. I didn't know what a medium was. An hour later, I understood what was going on and why it had taken up to 34 years for me to get to that level, to understand that I've been reconnected again. Reconnected. 34 years in the material plane, earning a few bob, driving Porsches and making a few bob, and then losing it all because you step into your true purpose. Now, your gut tells you something, and I've had a prime example of this a couple of months ago, 6 weeks ago. I live in a beautiful place, a grade 2 listed building, an apartment, but I rent it. Because the universe has got a habit of putting me in different areas to either help with that vibration of that area or to be around that area or to have my energy there for some reason. Just leave it there, you know. And then a week ago, no, 6 weeks ago, I got an eviction notice. Not eviction, the guy wants to sell the apartment after I've been here for 8 years. And when I looked at the letter he'd sent, recorded delivery, you know, proper form, I went, oh, okay. And I was utterly surprised that my heart didn't fall out of my bottom. I thinking, why don't I feel gutted? Why don't I feel, oh. And then mother in a past life gets to know about it. She says, you know why you're not that? I said, why? You know why you've not felt it? I said, why? Because you meditate. Every single day you're saying to the universe, here I am, teach me, show me, what can I do? You're connecting to source. Whatever you call source, God, Mother, Father, doesn't matter. God realised, self-realised, it all comes from one umbrella. We're off source energy. Once you keep connecting to that, you know you can go through anything. Keep connecting to your source, your inner, your gut, which is connected to your intuition, your heart, your gut, your heart, your intuition, your spiritual aspects, the higher spiritual aspects, and then your soul level. Now I say to people, try to meditate as much as you can. Connect with that source, and you'll find that when things do happen, because they will, sooner or later, you are, oh, I can handle that, no problem. I can handle that. Don't let the ego put you off, because it's designed to, on purpose, to make us stronger. What do you think about that, Matt?
I firmly believe in the trust in my divine guidance system. And anytime something bad happens, even if it seems really bad, I have this saying that, so I'm divinely protected and divinely guided, and I trust in that. And the more that I trust, the more that frequency is cultivated, and there's more guidance and more of a relationship. Okay? If you just say no and say you don't believe in that, then why would the universe or God even give you more signs to follow, you know, if you're not even going to follow them? But if anything bad does happen, I have this saying that my angels are taking a pretend smoke break. So I have angels. I'm surrounded by a lot of all sorts of higher dimensional spirits. And they guide me to help in my activism and to buck these 15-minute cities and to show the truth in this climate change, all of this stuff that's going on. Okay, but whenever my angels, my spirit guides, they will sometimes know that the darkness has to create a situation for me to guide me in a certain way. Because not always can I be guided by the light. Okay, we live in duality. We live in a realm of duality, and not always can the situation be perfectly, you know, peaches and cream, you know, roses and whatever awesome saying you have over in the UK. So check it out. My angels will be literally like, we're going to take a little break. Let's go over here and have a smoke, right? And they leave, and lower dimensional beings, like demons or whatever you want to call them, they'll come in, because they're like children, really. They're naive and immature, and they have no grasp of all that is or anything like that. And they're like, oh, the angels are taking a smoke break. Perfect. We can trick Matt into this car accident or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I get in a car accident, but I meet the love of my life, and I'm aligned with my destiny, right? Because it had to happen that way. Right? And I trust in it, and when I see it with my heart and with my higher self, even when things bad happen, I know that they're for the good. And when I see them in retrospect, it's all aligned perfectly. I just have to not get caught up in the moment, because I can't see the bigger picture. I'm in a play, like you said, and what's going to happen next in the play, I'm not really privy to, but I have to keep playing my role and trust in my divine alignment and protection and guidance. And the more that I trust in it, like I said, the more that it's cultivated and it grows, and the more protected and guided that I am. And life is beautiful. We live in a beautiful place.
Yeah. Well, I've been fascinated with our conversation, actually, and I'm sure that other people are fascinated here. So we've been on for 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes past I don't schedule any time. Is there anything that you would like to, as we go towards wrapping it up sooner or later, is there anything that you would like to add that you think is very important that people need to know, either about chemtrails or about anything else that you'd like to furnish us with?
So chemtrails and truth and activism and all of these amazing, beautiful things, it takes work, and it takes us, the people watching this show, we, the bringers of the light, we are given this knowledge, this light, this truth, not to sit at home and just ruminate on it. We're here to shed it and to bring the torch forward. Okay, to the next generation, to our friends, our families, our peers, to everyone in our surroundings, okay? And because we're being given this truth, this light, it's up to us to disseminate the information in the manner that we know is fit for the truth, which is honor it with love and respect and integrity. What does that mean? It means not coming off as a crazy person to your people. Okay? And what does that mean? Well, you have a grandmother and she doesn't want to hear anything about it, so maybe you need to drop it with her little planting of seeds in a certain way. I like to bring attention to those beautiful blue days with white fluffy clouds. They're kind of few and far between nowadays, but on those days there's no air traffic. The sky is beautiful, and it's not bringing the information to the people in this fear-based light where they can palpably bring it to their attention, and then later on when there's 20 planes in the sky and there's all these lines, you can say, oh, well, that's a lot different than it was the other day, and you can bring it to them in a calm manner, and then they come to you and they're like, oh, I'd like to see that movie Frankenskies. Let's watch it, frankenskies.com. It's online for free, and I can get a DVD from Matt. Okay? It's up to us to honor the truth with integrity. I'm going to say it one more time. Honor the truth. Not your truth. It's the truth. Okay? The truth is a frequency, and it is light. Honor it with integrity. And that means getting out into the world and letting the universe bring those people to bump into you and having these engagements. You know, you sit at home, not out in the world, you're not able to interact with everybody and do the thing and serve your purpose. So get out in the world. Get off the internet. I mean, you know, do your thing, but get out into the world and check out. And like, what I mean is get offline and live your experiential existence out in the real world, because that's where real life is. Rudolf Steiner, back from the turn of the century in the early 1900s, he wrote these prophetic books into these lectures, and he said that humanity needs to focus on at least finding a balance of 50-50, 50% on technology and 50% off technology in their waking life. That means leaving your phone at home when you go for a walk out in nature, and you'll see things differently and allow God and the universe to be that guidance for you. Because if you're connected with your Bluetooth headphones and you've got this screen in front of your face and you're not tuned into the natural world, you cannot connect as easy. All right? So that's my one word of advice, and I hope that that resonates with people, because we can all be the change in our own way. If you knit for the truth. If you have a certain skill set, then bring it to light in the heart space that you can, and shine that forward for your peers and your family and your neighbors, and get to know your neighbors. And don't live up to this divide and conquer scheme, because they want you ratting out your neighbor for taking a long shower in this weird climate agenda. But really, the truth, when we align with it, is that we don't need to be controlled, and that we can honor our spiritual destiny and rise into this new breed of human, which I believe is like a spiritual hybrid, where we can really honor the light.
Yeah. My neighbours think I'm weird, but I embrace it. I embrace it. I mean, I was looking out the window this afternoon. One of the neighbours, young girl, she's had her hair done. And I noticed, I'm thinking, she's had her hair done. So I thought, I went downstairs on the way out to my car, knocked on the door. She came, she's like shocked. It's okay. I said, you've had your hair done, haven't you? She went, yes. I said, it really suits you. And she was so like chuffed, very, very chuffed. And, oh, thank you. I said, you're welcome. I thought that was your younger sister. She said, get out of here. Get out, go on, you made your point. It's like saying, but the neighbours across the way thinks I'm weird. She says, oh, I don't believe what you believe. I said, well, it's fine. Don't worry about it. The truth will come one day. She said, you love yourself too much. I said, I love myself too much. She said, what makes you think that? Well, I can't love myself. I said, no, because you've not been shown. You don't understand. So I respect. You might be getting confused with ego and respect. I respect myself, not to be around negative people. So as you saw the other week, those people were talking negative. I removed myself out of their custom, out of their company, or I tried to change their way of thinking or what they were talking. She went, I did notice that. And then she smiled, didn't know what to say. So sometimes you've got to stand in your truth. And as a Scorpio, sometimes I do stand in my truth. But I've learnt to back off, put the sting back in the tail, bring the clinchers back in. So as you know, the astrological sign of a Scorpio has got 3 signs. 3. Scorpio stings itself to death. The phoenix, it reborns itself. It flies away, reborn. And the phoenix then transfers into a white dove. The only sign that's got 3 signs of Scorpio. And astrologically, we're here to go through, my belief is, every sign in the zodiac, so we have a better balance of us being a spiritual person, hybrid human being. That's my thought. Matt, it's been a wonderful hour and a half. I don't know where the time's gone. I'm going to invite you back sooner or later. Well, sooner, so we talk about other things, because I know we've got other things that we can talk about. Different planets, different races, different specimens, that are out there, and let's have another chit chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope everyone can check out Frankenskies at frankenskies.com and the website actualactivists.com. That's a one-stop shop for truth and information. I appreciate you reaching out to me and being this shining light in the world, and I love and appreciate you, and I see you as well.
I've just got to say thanks for Colin, because I've just put him on there. He's the chap who told me about you, and he's a real good worker for spirit. He is a spiritual medium himself, does the churches and stuff, and it's like, wow, this is really, really good. So, Matt, if you know anybody out there who would like to come on the show, activist or somebody who speaks the truth, just let them know about us, please, or let me know about them. I would appreciate that. Well, folks, is any questions? Okay, fine. One here. No, not question. Enlightening without wondering, of course. Thank you very much. I don't know who this Facebook user is. Probably not. I don't know. But at least they're listening and getting the message across. So I will say good night, God bless, because it's 9:30 in the evening here. What time is it where you are? 1:30?
Yeah, half past 1. That might have been my friend Brian, and if it was, God bless you, and whoever it was, thank you.
God bless you, Brian. Matt, God bless. Have a safe day, and we'll speak soon. Thank you very much.
Bless you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks. Bye for now. Bye. Bye. I just need to get this intro on. Well,
Thank
Matt,
you, Dennis.
thank you very much.
Hi.
We're still on air,
Thank you.
unfortunately. I forgot to switch it off.
Oh.
That was great. This is
Okay.
quite good because people know we're real. You know. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
for real.
Let me
Thank you.
just
Have a
finish
great day.
that. Let me just finish it, and I'll come back.